What's going on, guys? In today's video we are going to be talking about Strapi. It's a content management system unlike mongoose that you can actually use to store your data from your front end or even from your back end. So over here you can see design APIs fast, manage content easily. So Strapi is a leading open source headless CMS. Is 100% JavaScript, fully customizable and developers first. It's very easy and it's always open source. You can actually go to their GitHub repo and check it out, which I will add in the description at the ending of the video. So top features of Strapi, let's go ahead and talk about that. First, it's open source. Forever, the entire code base is available on GitHub and maintained by hundreds of developers and also contributors. It's fully customizable, easily customizable, and you can customize through the admin panel, extend your content management with custom plugins in seconds. So with Strapi, you can actually customize your data visually. You don't have to type a lot of code when you are using Strapi unless you wish to. So you can actually send data through your RESTful or your GraphQL, either send data or query data. Consume the API from any client, React, Vue, Angular, mobile apps, or even Internet of Things devices using REST or GraphQL. So Internet of Things can be like when you are making a request from Raspberry Pi, or you are making a request from anything that is capable of doing that. You can just send in your data, query your data, and all of a sudden you are going to have those data without delays. So it's always self-hosted. This is something that makes it more unique. Strapi is self-hosted. You don't have to put it online. You know, when we use mongoose, we will always go to the mongoose website or mongodb website to always see our collections and also the data we stored. But Strapi is saying that don't give up on data privacy or lock yourself in. Keep control of your data and your course at all time. You have full control of your data, especially when you are developing on localhost. You will see that you have full control of your data without you visiting a website or opening your browser to either edit it or even going to check it. So how does it works? Make a flexible data structure in 2 minutes. We are going to do that. Use our powerful features to customize your API. So we are going to be customizing our API through models when we start using Strapi to build some cool apps. So the first one is effortlessly create content structures that flex to your needs. So you can see the image behind. We have something like a string, text, number, boolean, date, email, password, and JSON. So if you are familiar with MySQL, PHP, or even MongoDB, you can see they have similarities, but all those ones you can actually do it visually as well. So Strapi kind of make things more simplistic. No matter which data structures is best for your business, you can always define models and add relations to create rich layout experiences. So you can just create your schema, create your models and also your relation visually without typing a lot of code to do that. So seamlessly write, edit, and manage any content types. So once you have created your content architecture, you can start telling engagement stories, allow cross-functional teams to deliver content faster, no matter your industry, use cases, location, devices, and channels. So this is kind of, you don't even have to bother. So far, someone has your URL link. You can always give, when I mean someone like a third party, you are permitting to use your database, you can always give them the link. They will always have access to it. So of course, they have some way of protecting their routes. We are also going to look into that when we start building projects with this Strapi. So step 3, focus your talent on what matters. You can integrate best in class services by third-party vendors and connect framework of your choice. So you can see easily build out digital experience without distraction of content management complexity. You can see the technology that we can actually make this to work. We have Node.js, we have React, we have Amazon, we have Next.js, the Firebots. All these are good, but it's not limited to this. We can also use Flutter. We can also even use PHP. Maybe in the future we are going to see how we can actually use that. Consume Strapi API from any client using REST of GraphQL. This is very cool and very good. You don't have to bother yourself. You just have to consume it. You don't have to sometimes create a back end for you to protect your routes or your API before you make use of it to store data. No, you just have to focus on your front end. When you are done, you can always use a standard RESTful API or GraphQL to query your content based on your Polio or your GraphQL plugins offer a full compatibility with the whole GraphQL ecosystem. Of course, we don't have this GraphQL currently on my channel, but in the future series, we are going to see how we can use Strapi with GraphQL. Deploying Strapi is very easy. You can always deploy it in Netlify or deploy it in Heroku, or even bundle it and upload it to your cPanel. All your favorite dev tools work with Strapi. So you work with React, you work with frameworks or libraries that can actually make a request or make a post request or get request. They are actually flexible to work with Strapi or static generators. Choose where you want to host your website, integrate with your favorite tools, and work with the best of each world. No vendor locking. So these are some technologies that I did put down for you to have more understanding of technologies that we can use together with Strapi. So let's dive in. We've talked a lot. So right now we are in the Strapi official documentation website. The next thing we have to do is to click on getting started. Right now in the getting started, all I have to do is to run this line of code on my Git bash. So I already have my commander open. So if you're familiar with my videos, you will always see me use commander. I'm just going to hit enter. And if you can observe, we have this quick start flag at the end of the code or at the end of the command, which is actually going to start this for us in the development mode. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Once our Strapi application is done installing, it is automatically going to open a localhost admin panel page for us that we can actually use to visually control our database and also insert, either delete or even edit your data visually. So let's go ahead and check in our console. You can see automatically Strapi kind of set everything for us. We don't even have to run things just like the way we do on MongoDB, taking the link, then putting it inside our application or downloading the compass. Strapi kind of have everything on itself. So right now, the page that we are faced with is the register admin page. I'm just going to create a quick username that we are going to be using to access the details. So I'm just going to create that with my name, and I'm going to use sam@gmail.com, and I'm just going to use 1 through 7 sam, and I'm just going to click on let's start, and it's not accepting this password because it's all small caps. I'm just going to add the S to be capital, and let's just click on start. And I'm just going to save these so that whenever we leave this page and come back, we can easily log in. So right now we are just faced with the admin panel page of Strapi, and this is where it gets more cooler. So if you check here, you can see welcome on board. Congrats, you are logged in as a first administrator, and you can see create your first content type. You can see their communities on the right side. You can as well join to get more to know about Strapi. So Strapi automatically create a collection type for us. The first one it creates for us is users. So we can actually add fields to the user or even add a new user. Just like I said, when you are inserting with Strapi, you don't even need to make a request from your API. You can just come over here, click on add new user, and it's just going to ask you to fill everything you want to fill the password, fill the email address, and then you click on save. And also you can assign a role to the user. Maybe the user must be authenticated before the user can make a request to grab data, or the user can always be a user that can as well get whatever the user wants to get automatically without being authenticated. But enough of that, let's just go ahead and click on the contents builder. And when I click on that, you can see it's going to automatically bring out some things for me, which I don't really want. I'm just going to create a new collection type. So the collection type I'm going to create is called items, or let me just make this posts. So it's going to automatically get a UID for us, post. If you click in advanced settings, you can actually add a collection name, but I'm not going to do that. So back to basic settings, I'm going to click on continue. So when you are creating a table or creating a model with MongoDB, you are faced with something called schema. So this is a kind of schema for Strapi. When you click on this text, you are going to see what will happen. It's going to give us a name of the table or the name of the row that we want to create. So I'm just going to create the first one to be title. And you can see here we have the short text or the long text. So if you have a short description text, you can use this. If you have a long text, you can actually use this. But this is actually good for something like when you are adding a table of description, because description kind of have more text than just the title. So we are going to stick with the short text. I'm going to click on advanced settings, and in advanced settings you can see the default value, which is always the text. We are not going to touch that, but you can see there are some settings here that we can actually select to make this more flexible. The first one is a private field. This field will not show up in API response. So if we happen to select private field, it's not going to show up on API response whenever we make a request to get our items from the post. The second one is you won't be able to create an entry if the field is empty. So it must always be required. So let's tick that. In case we are sending an empty request or empty values through our API, we have to get a 404 error telling us, giving us a warning that this field is empty. We must also make it a unique, and we can as well set the maximum length or the minimum length. If you're familiar with PHP MySQL, we usually use 250, which is almost a conventional way, but it's not that you must stick to that. So let's click finish. So when I click on finish, you can see we have the title and we have the text. I'm going to add another one, add another field, and I'm going to make that. Let me open the data I want to use. I'm going to add the body. I'm going to get the title as well. So the body is going to be a text, and it's going to be a long text. In advanced settings, it must be required and it must be unique. So let's go ahead and save that. So while this is saving, make sure you open your Postman, because we are going to be using Postman to actually make a request to our Strapi. So I'm just going to clear that link, and I'm going to change this to post. So when we make a GET request right now, you can see we have unauthorized and also we have invalid token. That's because it's protected. All we just have to do is to come over to roles and permissions. Now in roles and permissions, there are two things there: authenticated and public. So the routes or the routes that we want or the data flow that we want to be public, we can click on this edit button. And down here, you can see we have a list of things that we can actually make to be public. We can find one, we can as well find all the content, we can create, we can count, we can update, or we can delete. So for now, we're just going to stick to the ones that we are going to make use of in this video. And I'm going to save that. So right now, let me go back to my Postman and make that request again. Right now, we made a request. We are only able to get an empty array because we don't have any data in our Strapi database. Let me go back to the Strapi, and I'm going to add the data right now. I'm going to click on add a new post. So there are some couple of posts I organized. I'm just going to add that. I got this from JSON placeholder actually. So I'm just going to paste that quickly. And once I'm done adding these items, I can now continue. But first, let me add the first one so that you can see a walkthrough of how I did it. So I'm just going to add the body, and I'm going to save. So I am done adding all these items, and I added a list of 5 items. So you can see this kind of is very easy. And one thing I like about this is that once you're using Strapi, you don't even have to create an add post section in your blog or in any of your application. You can just come over to your Strapi application and automatically can add whatsoever you want to add. And that kind of makes it more cool. So let's go back to the the Postman and make a request. Right now, you can see a list of the data I just added, the first one, the second one, through to the 5th one. So this kind of makes Strapi more cool. Back at the roles and permission, you can see that whenever we tick any of these, so let me untick that and tick find, you can see that the first one happens to be a direct GET request that you're going to just make to the link/post, and it's going to grab every data. Then the second one is you have to pass the ID. Now in our postman, let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to pass the ID of 1. And you can see that the first thing I got there is the first item from our list. This kind of makes Strapi more cool. So I'm really enjoying this. So the next one is about create. For you to create, you have to make a post request to the post. So let's go ahead and try to create an item. So I'm just going to quickly paste that down, then we can now continue from there. I just added a new title and a new body. All you just have to do is to come over to the body section of your postman, click on it, then select this to be JSON. Then you can just add this object structure. And then right now, let's go ahead and make a post request. I have to change this to post and send. So it's telling us that it is forbidden, and that is because in the over here we have not actually saved this. So go ahead and save that, and let's run that again. And you can see we got a feedback or a callback with a response, the new title and a new body, and this makes Strapi more cool. That is why I said in the first place you can actually work directly with your front end without even touching or without even any part of your code being on the back end to store your data. Strapi handled this automatically for you. So like right now, let's go to the Strapi and go to the public as well. Now the next thing we can do is to delete an item. So deleting an item is you are going to make a delete request, and then you specify the ID of the item you want to delete. So allow to perform for this action. So there are some other things that you can actually also set. You can also limit it to a user that is authenticated. But for now, we are not going to touch a user that is authenticated. So let's go ahead and delete a single item. I'm going to delete the item 1. I'm just going to delete the item 1, change this to delete, and let's send that. We still have forbidden because we have not yet saved that. And let's save, go back and send. So right now we deleted the item 1. And when we go back to our collections in the post, we can see item 1 does not exist again. So let's go ahead and delete one more item so that we can actually confirm that. Let's refresh and go back to the post. And you can see the item 2 that we deleted just got deleted. We have really talked about how we can use Strapi to make a request, store data, and also delete data. So what about the user authentication, how the user can log in or how the user must be authenticated before making a request to a protected route? Right now, let's go ahead and add a new user in the user collection. I'm just going to add a user named Sam, and I'm going to add a simple email address, and I'm going to use the same password that we used. I'm just going to view that we have 1 through 8, then Sam. And I'm going to assign a role to this user is authenticated. Then I'm going to save that. So this user cannot do anything to our API or cannot even grab a data without being authenticated. So this user must be authenticated or logged in before he or she can actually do anything. So right now, let's go over to the Strapi documentation about authentication. So whenever a user logs in, Strapi returns a JSON web token that the user is going to be using to make a request, and that is something unique to every user. So let's scroll down a little bit to see how we can use that. So there are some other things while we are scrolling down. There are some other things that Strapi also supports. Github login, Facebook login, Google login, Twitter login, Discord, Twitch, Instagram, as well as VK. So these are some authentication methods you can actually use for Strapi, but our main concern is for a user to log in. So when we want to log in, Strapi accepts 2 things from us, that is the identifier and the password. Let me go ahead and grab these 2 lines of code, come over to my postman, and over here you can see I try to make that request. So I'm to replace this with the same identifier and the password, but in Postman you do it this way, and I replace that with my username and also the password. When I go ahead and send this, The user is going to log in and is going to return a new authentication token. So right now, let's go ahead and use this authentication token to make a request to store data. And I'm going to make a request to our post collections. I'm just going to copy this, come over to the authorization, select bearer token, and in your bearer token, you just have to replace any other token there with the one you have. And I'm going to come over to the body. So my main concern here is to change this to the title and also change this to the body. So the title means new title with auth user. So our data is done typed down, and I'm going to just send that to /post. Remember that we're making a post request, so do make sure that this is on a post request. Now I'm going to send that. So when we send this, we are supposed to get an error because we have not actually allowed the authentication user to actually make a post request or even create a request on the post collection. What we have to do is to go back to Strapi, come over to roles and permission, go over to is authenticated, and right here you can allow any authenticated user to create, find one, delete, or even update. So let's go ahead and save and go back and make that request once again. And right now you can see we have the new title with auth user with the body. And let's go back to our collection, click on post, and you can see right here we have new title with auth user. So you have seen how you can make a post request with this Strapi, and also you can make a post request as a normal user that is not registered and as a user that is registered. So if you really enjoyed to watch this video, you can try out Strapi. There are lots of cool things that we are still going to be using this to build, and as time goes on, we have to advance and make it look more better. So thank you for watching. Do make sure you hit the like button and also the subscribe button.